How many of you have an issue with, and I know some of you are new, but how many of you have an issue in your staff with motivation, making sure students are getting things done on time? I only get one hand. Well, we don't need to do this presentation then. I know when I taught, it was probably one of my biggest struggles. I had 4 or 5 people who were typically my editors who did everything. And it's not the ideal way to do it. It really isn't. But that's why I want to talk to you guys today about a little bit of this building a strong yearbook culture in your schools. And then a lot of that is this idea of playing team building games. I'm sorry, I have a hard time like having you behind me. Having this, these team building games, these bonding moments. This is the largest group project they are ever going to do. And how many kids like doing group projects? And usually if you've run your class or your club well by the end of the year, it didn't feel like a group project. It just felt like this really amazing effort that they put together. When the book ships, they're all in love with it. That's our end goal, okay? So building a strong yearbook culture. I love this quote by Maya Angelou. And again, when I was an advisor at first and I had my rep coming in and telling me to do these things, I'm like, yeah, we don't have time for that. But this is really important. She said, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And that is really, really, really what kind of comes into play with this idea of giving your students some great feedback and also having them work together really well as a team. So the publication room really should become like your second home, even as a club. I know often that even the school that I used to teach at is now a club, used to be a class, 256-page book, 1,500 students, and it got cut. It's a club now. But those students who are in it and the advisors who are working it do such a magnificent job of making this room feel like a home that these kids show up during their study halls. They show up a half an hour before school. A lot of them have stuff going on after school, so we do production nights, but it feels like a home. We are always bringing food in. And in fact, one of the first things that we used to do when we used to recruit students, our first brochure that our kids made one year was, "Will you work for food?" They do. Bring them food. Bring them little stuff like rings, all kinds of fun stuff like that. I think you walked in earlier today. I'm sorry, what's your name? Mickey. Mickey, you walked in earlier today and said, "Ooh, stuff. We get stuff." You guys feel that way. Your kids do too. You want to make sure it's a place where a culture is formed, a culture where high standards are set, where there is a sense of ownership in what they're doing, even with your middle school kids, where you have leaders that are born, and it's a fun and family atmosphere. When you're looking at those high standards and expectations, make sure that you really impress this upon your kids at the very beginning, that they are creating a history book for their peers. This is the only history that your school has for the whole year that's going to be completed in one place and kept for eternity. And they really need to understand the import of that. I really highly suggest you make sure that you are reiterating that over and over again. You're also running a business. You are running a business, and I think sometimes this takes so much of a back seat because you've got us to help out, you've got Send and Sell to do the job for you, we've got the e-blast going out for you. But I would really, if you've got a staff and it is a high school situation, I would really make sure you've got a business editor in place, and then that business editor is keeping track of sales and reiterating the fact that this is a business. And this does look great on a college application. It's a small business that they're running. Deadlines should never be missed. And it's not an easy A class. They need to hold each other accountable. I know that I would get dumped with students who didn't have anything else on their schedule but had to have some kind of extracurricular credit. The only thing I can tell you there is that you don't want to set expectations ahead of time, because some of those kids who were dumped became some of my best students because we took the time to really train and work with them, and that became their only home. That became the only thing that they plugged into. They weren't plugged into other things in school. One of the reasons why they got dumped into my class, it really became an amazing thing for them. Every staff member has a strength. You just need to find it. You just need to find it. Don't have those preconceived ideas before you get to know the staff members. And if you have never heard of the True Colors game, how many of you have ever played that? True colors. That's another one I like to start out the beginning of the year with, because we each have personalities, and those personalities can kind of come into certain types of categories, and based on the category that your personality is, there's a certain way that if I learn to talk to you that way, I'm going to get better results. If you don't have the True Colors game, let us know. We've got copies of it. It's a magnificent thing for you and your editors, and I got lots of head nods here for people who have done it. The wedding game's a lot of fun too, just because it's one of those great activities to really start getting to know each other. If you give them the opportunity, you guys, they will step up. They will. You gotta let go a little bit. How many of you control everything in your book and you are the last person that looks at every single page? Yeah, I know you're all type A personalities, that's why you're teachers, right? You have to give them the opportunity, because then they will step up. Back up a little bit. And give them enough of a net to where if they do fall, like, okay, yeah, we've got a deadline coming, but it really is a month away. Give them a little bit of net to where if they do fall, you can regroup and figure out where you need to go to next. Praise them, praise them, praise them, praise them. And getting to know them goes a long way. I don't know if you are showing up at their other events, or if you know what they are involved in, or if you know what personality type they are, but all of those things kind of have to come into play with this. And I would encourage your editors to also be part of that process. Returning leaders also can help set the tone for the year. They can ignite a new passion in staff members. They can show their knowledge too. If you've got returning staff members, even at the club level, guys, they should be teaching mini lessons to your staff. Wow, does that ever give them a sense of ownership and that ability to step up and really feel like they are part of something bigger? They can be in charge of announcements, they can be in charge of the workflow, and they really should be in charge of the class time as well if you are a class. And they can provide on-the-job training. My editors tended to be the people who were best at their jobs, and they did everything. And someone would work on a spread, and they would take that spread, and it wouldn't look like the same spread when they were done. That's not what a good editor does. It just isn't. In fact, your editors shouldn't be even working on pages during class time. They should be up popping around to every one of the people on your staff and watching them. And then encourage staff to attend things like conventions and workshops, because those are also really great places. You know, a 3-day workshop over the summertime, that's a great place for your kids to really get tight, really create a bond. I don't know if any of you are going to JEA in October, but huge, or November, isn't it? November. JEA November. I'm sorry, you guys, I have allergies, and I'm just having a hard time. JA November, Indianapolis. Anyone going? Yeah, you know, what is it, an hour and a half, 2 hour, three and a half hour drive for some of you?
Drive really fast.
I drive really fast. I drive all over. Really great place for you guys to really just go and make those team bonding efforts that are just going to last throughout the whole year like you would not believe. Whatever it costs, believe me, it pays for itself by the end of the year. It really does.
One of the other things too about bonding your staff, I love it when new advisors do something really cool. Dana, I want you to explain your pie in the face contest that you're doing.
Love it.
It's a very small school with funding, so they actually have to do some fundraising. So she came up with this idea. Do you want to explain?
Yeah. Well, actually, my students came up with it because by the time they got to be seniors, they have a few teachers that they'd like to pie in the face. So as a new teacher at my school, I don't know how happy my faculty is with this fundraiser, but it's going to be a pie a teacher in the face fundraiser, and we're doing it like a penny wars. It's starting next week. So I'll have like 2 or 3 yearbook staff members in the lunchroom, and we're going to have, I have 8 teachers that volunteered, so a bucket for each one of them, like their picture on it. And throughout the week, people can put money into the bucket, and the top like 3 buckets with the most money, those teachers get a pie in the face.
And is this just a fundraiser for yearbook then?
Yeah, for yearbook.
For yearbook specifically?
So, just to raise money for yearbook.
You know, I have a lot of schools that do the St. Baldrick's. Have you guys heard of that? Where they shave their heads. I'd much rather get a pie in the face than my head shaved, quite frankly.
Just developing the fundraiser and then having to do the fundraiser and contact the people, all of those things are bonding. You know, so whether you raise a lot of money or little money, you know, it's about that process and getting them kind of working as a task together.
they made the flyers and they're making the announcements, and this Tuesday they're going into all of the advisories and like letting everyone know that we're doing this at lunch starting next week. So
That's a really cool idea. I like it.
Well, and then like say you volunteered as a teacher and you really don't want a pie in the face, it's going to motivate them to put money in someone else's bucket.
we're also gonna have the buckets out at parent-teacher conferences, so
Nice.
many parents like walk out of a conference and
And you are filming all of this, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to also add an harassment app on your book so they can watch it all, right, in the yearbook?
There you go. That's a little bit.